I'm really proud to announce our next case study, which is from the Bank of Cyprus, where George Charalambous will talk about gaining competitive edge, transforming procurement mitigation risk. So George is responsible for the enterprise sourcing and is procurement analyst at Bank of Cyprus, and he was an elementary part of this transformation. So George, welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Johan.
Thank you, and thanks for your patience.
Thank you. Hello, my name is George Charalambous, and I'm the enterprise sourcing and procurement analyst at the Bank of Cyprus. I believe that other than some product demonstrations that will follow, this is the last presentation of this Horizon event. So you know what they say, leave the best for last. So relax, and I hope you enjoy. Today, I will be talking briefly about our digital transformation journey in procurement at the Bank of Cyprus, and we'll also present you our case study about how we're using Merlin CLM to address regulatory compliance reporting requirements. Two things about the Bank of Cyprus. We are the largest bank on the island, and we cover the whole spectrum of banking services. We also offer insurance, brokerage, and other financial services through our subsidiaries. Now, being a bank, I think banking is actually probably the most regulated sector in the industry, okay? And being a bank in the European Union, we are closely monitored by the European Central Bank and, of course, the Cyprus Central Bank. And we have like a lot of regulatory requirements. Now, first, I want to take you, go back in about 8 years ago. And at that time, the sourcing and procurement department was working on manual, okay? We were using just like office applications to do our daily work. Now, of course, we had like contract templates, we had like all kinds of RFX templates, technocomic evaluation models, but everything was built using Word and Excel, and memos and emails were the means used to carry out the daily operations, the daily work. We had no workflows. We had no contract repository. Even invoices that were coming in, paper or electronic, had to be typed in order to get paid. I mean, even electronic invoices that were coming in, they were actually printed in paper form. They were getting stamped, and they were being sent through internal mail, not email, to the person that would authorize it. That person would just like initialize it to authorize it and send it via internal mail, not email, to the next person. Eventually, it will get to the accounts payable department through internal mail in order to get paid. There were like 5, 6 people at the accounts payable department doing nothing more than just actually typing in invoices to get paid to the payment system. The accounts payable department at that time had like 10 or 11 people, and they were working at full speed in order to cope. Now, there are only 2, and they're relaxed, working at normal speed. I know so because every time I go to the coffee machine, which is down the hall, I go by their office, and I know what they're doing. So, in order to address all these inefficiencies, we initiated an RFP process, and we invited all the prominent software vendors in the sourcing and procurement industry to participate. Following evaluation, we narrowed down to 3 candidates, and we ran them through a pilot implementation. Eventually, we selected Zycus, we rolled out our sea leaves, and dived in. Now, improving performance, organizing, introducing automation, and narrowing down cycle times were not the only drivers. As I said before, we are highly regulated by the European Central Bank, and we had to accommodate for a number of regulations on which we had to report on. We have outsourcing agreements. An outsourcing agreement is an agreement for the provision of a service that the bank could or should be doing internally because it's related to banking business. Okay? Now, the reason why we may decide to outsource it, mostly it's because of the cost. It's cheaper to have someone else outside do it, or for other reasons. There are GDPR-related contracts. Okay? Those are contracts that deal with the processing of personal data, as you all know. There are single resolution board-related contracts. These are contracts which are classified as critical for the bank because they relate to the provision of an essential service for the smooth banking operations. So if a contract is classified as an SRB contract, then additional clauses need to be included in the contract. So in case the bank faults, God forbid, this is done in a smooth and orderly manner. The services will continue to be offered until the very end. This is done in order to avoid waves in the economy, okay? So each one of these regulations has its own reporting requirements. So we have to collect data. And so we have to add custom fields in the contract form to collect this data. Now, as I said, each one regulation has a number of fields, and in a lot of cases, there are overlapping fields. All in all, after introducing the custom fields, we got something like 80 fields in the contract form. Now, you can expect from an ordinary average user to remember which fields need to be filled in each case. A contract can be categorized in any one of these categories, any combination of these categories, or in none of these categories, okay? So we introduced logic into the iContract module to guide the user which fields need to be filled in each case. All the user has to do is identify the categorization, and the form guides the user to on which fields need to be filled. Actually, it's a little bit more tricky than this because some of the fields have predefined values. And when a predefined value is selected in one of these fields, it may trigger a number of other fields or some other changes in the form. But all this was done. The user was guided by the hand, and we thought that everything was fine and dandy, or at least we thought so, okay? Until the European Central Bank came up with a new release of outsourcing reporting requirements. The European Banking Association came up with a new regulation called DORA, which is the Digital Operational Resiliency Act. Before this regulation, the way the banks handled operational risk was by making capital provisions to address potential losses. However, this did not address operational resilience in other areas, particularly in the areas of IT. So this regulation introduced very strict requirements to the banks in order to address IT incidents. And there are provisions regarding recovery, regarding confinement, regarding repair, and a number of other parameters. Now, in addition to this, there were also some human factors that we had to address. As I mentioned before, we programmed the iContract module to guide the user to collect the data. However, some users consider this as too much of a burden, just to go through and fill in these values, because they had to look through the contract and some other additional documentation to fill in the values. So we had data quality issues. Okay, they were just filling them in. In order to address this, and the total of 137 fields that's where we currently are, and this is the worst case scenario. We don't have to collect this much data for every contract. This is the worst case scenario. We had to find another solution, okay? So we resorted to Merlin CLM. Now, what happens now is that by using the tool, we can upload the contract to Merlin, and then the tool scans the whole contract and identifies the value for each field. Okay, so the only thing the user has to do now is go in each field and just confirm the value, just say yes. What actually happens is, as the user goes through the values, the tool will show, it splits up the screen and it shows the particular location where it picked up. It shows the actual text and it shows where it picked the particular value. So the user, is guided there and can just confirm the value and move to the next one. Or it also has the option to change the value or just skip to the next field. So very quickly, the user can go through all the fields and just confirm the values. So we're now addressing this data quality issue that we had with the human factor. Now, following this, one may wonder, what are these 137 values that I talked about before? These are not values that are all contained in the contract. Because of these regulations, we have additional documentation that accompanies every contract. For example, depending on the categorization, we may have to do an operational risk assessment. We may need to do a vendor risk assessment. There are other questionnaires that the users might need to fill and collect information like, okay, what business lines are using the particular product or service? What is the criticality of this service? How easy is to switch to another vendors? What are other candidate vendors that we can switch to if this vendor fails? Okay, how quickly can we do that? And all this information which is contained in other documents can also be fed into the tool. The tool will also scan all these additional documents, identify all these other values, and populate them into the form. So using this method, and believe me, scanning the contract is very quickly. Every document takes about half a minute to scan. It doesn't take more. So it's not like a tedious process. So right now we have addressed all this, and we're able to capture all the data, categorize the data, and be able to report what the future might bring. Right now, we are evaluating iRisk because we want to do supplier performance reviews. And at the same time, we also want to use this performance review to carry out risk assessments and also facilitate decision-making on whether we should give more business or new business to a particular supplier. And there is a difference about giving more business or new business because new business is like a new contract. There are suppliers which provide the bank with discrete services. And we have different contracts, of course, for each service. Now, what we would like to do is evaluate the supplier at the contract level, okay? And because one supplier may be doing quite well under one contract, but not so well under another contract. And we want to capture this information. Then we want to roll up and review the supplier performance at the aggregate level, okay? In addition to all this, we also want these performance reviews to be triggered automatically, okay? For those suppliers who are very good suppliers, they get very good performance, we may want to run these performance reviews once or twice a year. For other suppliers that may have issues, we may want to run them 3 or 4 times a year, okay? In addition to this, our supplier risk management department, we call it TPRM, third-party risk management, is also reviewing iRisk because they want to carry out a 360-degree risk analysis for the suppliers. one last thing I want to say is that, like, we have like all these requirements, but and as I said, like, we're reviewing iRisks. Fortunately, a lot of these requirements can be covered through the iRisks core functionality, and based on the business analysis has been carried out so far, everything else we need can be covered with the AppExtend platform. Okay, so this pretty much sums up our journey with Zycus so far and how we're using Merlin CLM in order to do our regulatory compliance reporting requirements. I'll take any questions. Thank you.